Welcome to the Inner Athlete Podcast, where we discuss all things youth athlete development and youth mentoring.
Where are we? 2016. That was the time that I wanted to, I guess, invest some time to go to the US. And fortunately enough, I landed an internship at the University of Wisconsin. And then the whole process, it could be another podcast episode. It was quite a long process in order to get there. It took me probably about 3 or 4 months just to secure a position there. And it was probably one of the best experiences if I had to sum it up in a nutshell. I had Kevin Schultz, probably one of the best mentors I've ever had throughout my career. I ended up living with him at the time as well. And I guess an Aussie guy living with the US, country bumpkin, in the mid-northwest. If those that don't know where Wisconsin is, it's Wisconsin, the state, is in between Minnesota, and it's a little bit northwest of Illinois as well. So they're adjacent to one another. Very cold, but the facilities were just phenomenal. I never had experienced anything like that in terms of the facilities. Even the facilities just for the students themselves was actually really good. Like, they had an indoor athletics track. I mean, I don't know if we even have one in Australia, but in the US, it's just a common thing, especially when it's up north where it snows, for 6 months of the year. I was able to be exposed to some awesome coaches and programs and athletes. I got to work with golf, basketball, ice hockey. Ice hockey was probably the most enjoyable sport to work with. There's just something about the mentality and attitude with ice hockey players. Volleyball, soccer, rowing, track and field. I didn't work with the wrestlers, but the wrestlers just have a different mentality as well. And I was able to work with the strength coaches and be able to meet some of the head coaches as well. Yeah.
So what was the actual internship you did at Wisconsin, and what sort of key takeaways you got from it?
Yeah, the actual internship was working with the Olympic sports program. For half a semester, I worked at one facility, which was golf, basketball. I ended up working with cheer and dance, and then ice hockey in one facility, which was in that indoor basketball / hockey center, the Cole Center. Then the other half of the semester was at the McCain Center, and that's where all the other programs were as well. And they've got an indoor football facility adjacent to the stadium, and then we're able to use that for a lot of the training sessions as well. I think what are the big lessons? I thought it was really interesting just to understand, I guess, the dynamics of how a school semester really affects the athletic performance and the resources that they really have in place, and how that can be kind of scaled to any level as well. It's just a more advanced level than what a high school program would be. Just more money is pumped into it, more resources and whatnot. Right? I think it's probably a bit more on the line as a result. And then probably just the communication between S&C, head coach, sports medicine, even they had dietitians there, and they had a training. They call it it's not training table, but a nutrition bar, and then having access to nutrition interventions, pre and post training, or even in between sessions where the athletes could just walk in, grab a quick snack, and then just head out, and then they've got training, in 45 minutes that they were able to fuel up adequately for their training sessions, because they had so many things to kind of take the thinking out and the preparation out. And I think that was the real key thing, is taking the thinking and preparation. And one of our members, Stefan, he talks about that, taking the thinking out and just getting the preparation sorted on the back end. So then the performance and the training, what you should be doing, spending a majority of time doing, can be really concentrated on that. So you're not worrying about, do I need to get my boots, or I've got to rush to training, and then your head's all over the place. We're trying to they're trying to really streamline the whole process. And then having enough resources around, then obviously, and all the resources are really around the actual student athlete in that time. So I think that was probably the biggest lesson that I took away from it. I did want to work there as well in the college sector, but I think once my time got to that point, I was I think I'm good. I got what I wanted out of this experience.
Yeah, and so when you finished up with Wisconsin, what was it about University of Wisconsin that you wanted to bring back to Australia?
I think it was more the the integration of all the models, right? So in Australia, it seems to be a bit disjointed. Like you see a private practice for a physio, you see a GP, it's separate, right? They do refer and they have some sort of networks, but it just never felt like it was joined or like a smooth process. And then I think I wanted to bring something back here that kind of ironed out those kinks. Then I think when I came back, then a good mate of mine, Jamie, the strength culture, shout out to the boys there. He even went over to the US, and then they got exposed to a business model with Eric Cressy, who's a baseball guy, and his model was like a semi-private. It was kind of like I knew I wanted to do something, but I didn't know how to do it. At the end of the day, then I had played around with things, and I came back in 2017. I went back into PT. I went on one-on-one training. Then that's when Jamie exposed me to semi-private training, and I was like, oh, maybe I could make this work in a gym setting. It's like, I tried it out. I started really small scale, and I had a crop of PT clients. Don't get me wrong, PT is great. I think it's it's good for some people, not for everyone. But I wanted to make sure that I was getting enough value, then I could really focus on the coaching side, because I found with me with PT, it's just kind of like it's a lot of time to fill, and I'm just like, I don't want to be like that person. I just want to be like, get in, get the work done, give the message across, but have people connect with each other as well. And I think that's what, like, the semi-private or even in the college sector, like you have your juniors and seniors, like your third and fourth year athletes, and your freshmen coming in, and then they kind of like help to kind of bring them into the team. And it's just kind of like, I wanted to do something similar here. So ended up creating that on a small scale, kind of built that up over time. Then it got to the point where, okay, where I am now, it's not going to be viable moving forward. And then basically we landed here, and we've been here ever since July 2019. Yeah. Fast forward a bit.
Yeah, so it's October 2003 now, so it's been 4.5 years.
4 and a bit years. 4 and change, yeah.
Yeah. So obviously before starting an athlete, you gained some inspiration of other colleagues that you worked with as well, but also a large portion of it was from your experience overseas. What was the vision of an athlete? What was the vision and the mission that you wanted to take?
I think growing up, I had, as previously mentioned, like I've had my own personal issues, like having the support networks, because my mom kind of like bounced me around from like a dietitian and then personal trainers. Then personal trainers weren't that great. Then you kind of had to move around. Like this support system, this nutrition system was working. Then it wasn't. It was like this hodgepodge mess that my mum had to try and figure it out. Then I wanted to kind of create something where there's a place that I wanted to be, and there's a place that would able to help me figure it out over time as well. So that was basically it with that.
Yeah, and then what made you want to niche out into youth athlete development? Why not just just personal training, or why not something else? Why youth athlete development?
I think growing up as a fat kid, really, I knew the pain that it was like, and I know that. Then I also had injuries as well, and I know that if I'm a case study, then I knew friends were getting injured as well. I knew they were going to. It was just always going to like extrapolate in terms of like becoming a bigger problem, and I think as I've kind of observed over time, like physical activity is really on the decline. Like I think recently I saw an article. I think Australia has the second highest pediatric obesity rates in the world, and I'm like, oh shit! Like I know we're a small country in size, but it's not looking good. I know there's over-representation, but it's still not good. So I thought that was kind of like, it's a growing market and there's a growing demand. And then I'm a person that like, I'd rather work myself out of business to the point where it's a problem solved, but I know this problem is not going to be solved by me alone. And I think that's kind of like another factor why I've tried to bring on a team like yourself and Zoe and Matt and Jack to help to kind of support the community that I'm in, because a lot of parents that I've spoken to, they really are lost in the weeds in terms of best supporting their kids, and all we have to really do is go back to basics, but the basics aren't being taught. So I'm just like, I'm feeling multiple gaps in this big problem that's happening at the moment. And then the idea is, based on, when I had my time at, Brighton Grammar, with Ian, he said, like, there's two models that they really follow. It's like, train to perform in your sport, and then, train for life. Is setting up those healthy habits in the long term, which are going to best serve you later on down the track. And then if people move on because they feel like they've outgrown here, I think that's great. I think we've had plenty of members do that. It's like, we've taught them the skills, they felt confident, their parents have been really confident in their ability to train, like with yourself, with Anna Rood, I think is a really great example. A kid that wanted to play tennis, parents want him to get fit and stronger, but then all he wants to do is, just get strong. And I'm like, all right, we'll focus on getting him strong, and eventually he kind of outgrew this place. And that's kind of what we want, is people to outgrow this place, so then they're going to be able to, I guess, move on with their life rather than just be like stuck in that perpetual cycle.
So yeah, early days, July 2019. What was it like? What was it like opening up your own facility? Early days, challenges, revelations, things like that.
Oh, shit, bricks. I never really wanted to get into like my own business myself, but I think for what I wanted to do moving forward, I kind of had no choice in that sense. And I think as I look back at it now, I'm glad I did kind of, expand myself and, challenge myself in that regards. And I'm very thankful for that. Then also having like the people behind me as well, like my parents, some of the OG members as well, really backing the idea as well. I think that was really cool. And they kind of believed in what they did, but not kind of believe, they did believe in what I was, talking to them about, and the vision that I had as well. And then obviously, 2020, the C19 came, and it kind of put a really hamper on the brakes in terms of the business growth. So we were doing pretty well, building up. I know you came on board, and it was December 19 as well. Then we brought on another coach as well, Nathan, and it was just like, how long is this going to be? Then obviously, it was like 6 opening closings, and we tried to adapt as much as we could, and we did okay. We ended up getting through at the end of the day, moving forward, and then we're in a pretty good position for the next X amount of years.
And the fact you got through that year was like a stroke of incredible. It's just like so many other gyms in the area shut down, so I think you did a really good job on that one. Yeah,
it was like a single swim mentality as well. So I was like, all right, I didn't necessarily want to step up, but I kind of had no choice in that case. And it was like, all right, how are we going to pivot this? I was really thankful that we actually did a semi-private model, because we actually taught people how to train properly, so they're able to do it from home. So I guess that was kind of like almost like how what the model was, and how it filled the gap as well. And I was like, I don't know, this just kind of worked out for what it was. So we managed to look after members. We created, like a Sunday coffee chat on a weekly basis as well. And that was really cool. And then even the young kids as well, like, Wednesday afternoon after that, I guess, school essentially online, we got them training, and then you had your own little segment, the Book of David. That's just like a just kind of like more, not philosophical, but more like life lessons, essentially. Then basically, got through that, and we're, fast forward a little bit more. We've had, a few things. There's been lots of ups and downs, don't get me wrong. Obviously, it can, running a gym is not an easy thing by any means, or a training facility or anything like that. Like, the concentration of gyms and training facilities in Melbourne is astronomical. Like, I can list like 10 in the area within like a 3-kilometre radius. That's how popular they are. But there seems to be a demand for it for some reason, because they're all popping up. So to me, it's like people really are looking for health and fitness, but they're looking for a very individualised and catered service, and they will shop around for that specifically. So that's why I think it was, for us, is, as the years have gone on, and we've kind of catered towards youth athlete development and the youth mentoring side, or even helping those who are in their 20s or 30s, who are play sport on the weekends at a senior level, that we can still support these individuals in more of a one-on-one basis, where if they went to like a larger setting, it's more of a group setting style where it kind of misses the need for the athlete or the individual in this case.
So since opening your doors, who have been your success stories, or what success stories do you have?
Well, let me start before we open the doors. So one of the athletes I used to work with, Bill, is a cyclist, very good cyclist. I remember his father approached me, I think it was about 15, 16 at the time. So I ended up training him, very good track cyclist, ended up becoming under 18 national champ for his event. He actually got a few national championships, actually. Yeah, so competing against the best of the best in Australia, and then also in Oceania, where there were more like regions outside of Australia as well. And yeah, he just dominated. I think he got to like 2 seconds off the world record for the 2 kilometer individual pursuit, which is basically just in the velodrome, just balls to the wall essentially. He was great to work with. And then he was able to move on to, race professionally in Australia. Then he was able to get into like higher level programs, later on. And that's kind of like the thing that we like to do, is just try and like at least set them up in regards to make bigger moves, later on down the track. Another one would be, this was actually before we opened up here, I ended up working with, and he transitioned across here as well, would be Nicky Boy. He's going to be on the potty soon, and he's coming back. It was interesting because I was working with NRL Victoria at the time, and we first met, and we were both working out of the same gym at the time as well. And I was like, hey. I was like, oh, I know you. You know me? Oh, great. Let's connect. Then we started training him. Then I started training him. Then he had a really bad ankle injury as well, so we had to kind of rehab him, looked after that side. He came back really strong. Then I think it was his last season in under 20s or under 21s. He was captain for the side, plays front row, plays 80 minutes. Now, for those that don't know, 80 minutes as a front rower is a big thing. Yeah. He's just got an absolute tank on him. And then, fortunate for him, he was able to go up to Queensland. I think he played reserve grade for a little bit as well. And then he's playing seniors. Ended up playing seniors grade. Then he ended up representing Greece in the Rugby League World Cup. And then he had the highest tackle count out of the whole competition. So he's a workhorse, that's for sure. So that was another really good success in order to help assist him. Then I think Holly, she's been on the podcast before, another really good success story. She was kind of like, when I first met her, I think she was 16. I think it was coming out of COVID. I was 21, into 21, I think. And I had a discussion with her that she just hasn't been making progress. She was able to train in the gym because she's a national level athlete. So there's rules that you could train during the lockdown periods, but she just wasn't making progress, and she was really annoyed about it. And then we started understanding what the issues were. She has a history of ankle issues, lower back issues, some other conditions as well. Managed to kind of get her to the point where we rehabbed her back to the point, moving really well, able to talk to the coach at the time. And then, within 4 weeks, she ends up getting her first PB. So in over 18 months, which was a huge deal for her at the time. And then this whole time, we've just been able to kind of just chip away at small things, be able to adjust it in a program and help her become more aware of what she can do to perform. But yeah, she's just been a model athlete. Sometimes she does overdo it. She'll swim in the morning. She'll have athletics carnival during the day. Then she'll come in the evening. I'm like, you all right? I'm like, I'm cooked. I'm like, oh, what'd you do? And she'll just tell us the whole thing the whole day. But no, she's a phenomenal athlete to be able to work with. Very excited to see where she goes in the next couple of years. I know she'll be pushing for Olympic trials, which will be probably about 6 months' time. So exciting time for her, especially in her training and preparation for that. Then probably something that's probably not athlete related as well. Just trying to think off the top of my head. Who have you? There's been a few. I think Anna Rood was a really big one. A kid who wasn't really much into keeping fit, more into video games and anything else. But I think seeing him and you working with him, I think I worked with him initially, and then Nathan worked with him for a while. Then you ended up working with him for a big stint. Then all he wanted to do is focus on just getting bigger and stronger and faster, or bigger and stronger. And then seeing him transition out of the training here, and then him towards the end is he wanted to do his own programs. And seeing him, he's still in high school. I think he's year 11 now, and seeing him progress from that, I think is a real big deal, because obviously you want health and fitness to be a part of someone's life. In terms of like how they do it, that's totally up to them. So I thought that was a really big win. We say, Mia and her knee, coming back to that, she's had a history of bad knee issues. She ended up having surgery on her knee, rehabbed really well, and she came back to full strength. Then she went back to, long course nationals, and I think we'll be pushing a little bit harder moving forward. And then she's been training really well. We've had some really good success stories as well, like Ewan with the baseball. I'm trying to think. The two that really stand out to me would be like Hamish and Louis, the two hockey boys. They never had made the state team ever, the state squads. Then I think training with us, you worked with Louis primarily. You got him faster, more explosive, improved his running technique, and then he ended up making the state team. So seeing kids like that, I think it's more like it's a different type of reward for helping someone become successful when they're already being successful, but helping someone to move from one echelon to another echelon, I think that's probably like the real rewarding part of this job of like, they're being selected for a state team for the first time, where they, mentally they thought like, oh, I'm kind of, but I'm not. But then when they do make it, it's like, hey, mate, you put in the work. You did really well. You succeeded because we've guided you along the way, but we can't force you to do anything. And this was your active choice and what you did. So we like to put the ownership of their success onto them. We're just kind of like helping them. We know what the recipe is, but they need to follow it.
100%. And future plans for an athlete? What's coming ahead?
Man, I really need to sit down and sort this out. I think.
Well, what are you currently working on, and what's coming up in the next couple of years?
Yeah, what am I currently working on? So I think a big thing for us has been working with Melbourne Swimming Club. I think they're probably like the top 3, top 4 club in the state. And then they're looking at really developing their pathways program from like junior, like state development. I think so state development, state age to national age to national performance. There's a tiered system that they follow, and it's been really good to see the kids move up with that. We've been working with them for about 2.5 months at the moment. And it's growing that program out. So then we'll be responsible for the programming across 4 pools, the training, the face-to-face training at 2 locations. We're going to 1. That's a really exciting time. It's been a really exciting time for us. And then they've got states in December. So it's a real big prep period for states. Then they'll have nationals over Easter next year. And I think, honestly, we're just trying to like refine and provide more value to the facility, to the members here. So we've just invested in some velocity-based units. So it's something a little bit more different that we can add to the training as well. We've got the speed program. I think we got, Coach Jack, he's just come on board with us. He's going to be running that on the Wednesday afternoons for the off-season field-based athletes. Then I don't know. I think then there's some other things that are in the pipeline. I don't want to spoil it as of yet, because there's still some details I want to got to work out. But they're the main ones at the moment that we're working towards. For us, actually, one of the big things that we did this year, and actually, was it this year or maybe last year, was the off-peak access. I think that's been a real game changer for us, because when seeing the members come in, on a Saturday afternoon after a game, or they come in midweek, they come and do a light session, like a bit of a flow series or something like that. Just coming in to recover. it's like, this is great because they can use it as their personal gym. And like, there's not many places where you can come in, use it as your personal gym, and it's not overwhelmed by people. Like every gym I know of, that we know of, anyways, it's a pain in the ass to get the equipment that you want. It's you want to set up a circuit? Nah, not going to happen. Someone will pinch your shit when you're got your back turned for 30 seconds. So here we can actually set that up. We can really cater towards that, and then we just want to make sure that over time we just want to continue to push the youth athletes specifically, and then we'll be looking to work with more like youth programs than anything else. So over the school holidays, presented to a basketball camp just in the local area, which was really good. And then I think it's more just pushing the message of youth athlete development that it needs to be beyond the training side, because you only train if certain sports you might train 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week. Swimming, it could be up to 20 hours a week in this case. But we're not looking at every other aspect that's going to influence that as well, because nothing works in isolation, in their own separate silos. There's some sort of interconnectedness involved there. Like all our biological systems, there's some level of interconnectedness. If one system's down, there's an overcompensation somewhere else, and that's only going to work for a very short period of time before the system starts to kind of shut down on itself. So we need to kind of begin to address that side. But yeah, I like it here. I like the facility. I like how it's kind of small. But yeah, it just doesn't feel overwhelming for when people come here as their first training facility as well. So I like being like that gateway entry into a training facility for a lot of people, because we hear stories of people go to a gym, 16 years old, they sign up, or they get a trainer or a person, someone on the floor to show them how to use the equipment, yada yada yada. Then they're left onto their own devices, and then I don't like that, because movement is like learning how to write. If we're not teaching them how to write properly, they're going to write terribly moving forward. So that's why our model is, the semi-private, looking after them. Then even when they have off-peak access, we don't allow it till 3 months, because we want to make sure that they're training well, understand how everything flows, where everything goes back. Then after that 3-month period, I'm like, well, there you go. It's almost like a rite of passage, essentially.
Awesome. Well, thanks for jumping on the podcast, Trent. I think like we said at the start, our number one goal is to be the number one training facility for youth athletes in Melbourne. So if you're a parent of a youth athlete, we highly recommend you come down and check the place out. We truly believe, we're probably biased, but we truly believe that we're one of the best in Melbourne, if not Australia, when it comes to youth athlete development. We've got a reputation for getting kids to state, representative, national levels, but also developing good humans and good kids.
Yeah, well said.
Awesome, thank you. If you like this episode, please like and subscribe and share with someone that you know might like it. And we'll see you for the next episode. Thank you.
Thanks.
You have just listened to the Inner Athlete Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with the release of weekly episodes. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram to get great tips on all things youth athlete development and youth mentoring.